Vsauce, Finn here. Tides come in every 6 hours here on Earth. This is a fact that's taken without much thought. But what drives this daily phenomenon of the sea? Many people know that the tides are caused predominantly by the moon, but don't actually know the physics behind this daily movement of the oceans. How do you think tides are formed?
I think it's the moon's gravity that pulls the water out.
I know it's something to do with the moon and gravity, but I'm not really sure how.
The gravitational pull of the moon on the Earth is what causes the tides. Unsurprisingly, it is slightly more complicated than that. If that were the case, then we would only have high tide once a day, with the moon facing high tide and low tide on the opposite side. Instead, we see high tide on opposite sides of the Earth and low tide on the other two sides, like this. To understand how this works, we first need to understand how gravity actually works.
This is how physicists figure out how it works. But don't worry, it's a lot more simple than it looks. There are two things you do need to know to understand tides. First is that gravity acts upon the centre of an object. So when the moon's gravity acts upon the Earth, it acts upon the centre of it. And second is that gravity gets weaker the further away from an object you are.
These two factors combine to create tidal forces. But how does this affect our oceans?
That's a good question, Finn. Let's figure it out with this quick demonstration.
For this demonstration, we need the moon, the Earth, and the ocean surrounding them. Both the moon and the sun affect the Earth's tides, but for this video we will focus on the moon's effect on the tide. The moon's gravity acts on the centre of the Earth, as mentioned before. Due to the fact that gravity gets weaker the further away from an object you are, the moon's gravity is strongest on this side and weakest on this side. This pulls the oceans facing it closer, creating high tide here. Since the moon pulls on the Earth's centre, its effect on the Earth is slightly weaker than on the oceans, which are closer. The moon also pulls on the oceans on the opposite side of the Earth, but its effect is a lot weaker. As the Earth is pulled towards the moon, it leaves the ocean in a bulge behind it, creating high tide here. Low tide is created here and here as the water is spread out more thinly. As the Earth rotates, it creates tides every 6 hours and 13 minutes approximately.
Of course, with this being physics, it is not as simple as that. As mentioned earlier, the sun also has an effect on the tides, around 44% of that of the moon's.
Depending on how the sun and the moon are aligned, this either increases or decreases the strength of the tides. If the sun and the moon are aligned in a straight line, then this increases the strength of the tides, creating spring tides.
And if the moon and the sun are at 90 degrees to each other, like this, they create neap tides, which are weakened tides. Tidal forces here on Earth can seem quite boring, only pulling our oceans in and out. However, in other parts of the universe, their effects can be fascinating.
A cool effect of tidal forces can be seen in black holes. As our bodies enter a black hole, the gravity is so strong it will pull you apart piece by piece. This is known as spaghettification. This happens because the atoms in our body closest to the black hole are ripped from the rest of our body. This continues to happen until we cease to exist.